NFL training camp is kicking off next week for the Atlanta Falcons. And for Falcons fans that are also Braves fan, it couldn't come at a better time because it means football season is upon us. The best time of the year is closing. I mean, literally this time next month, we'll be talking about preseason games. We'll be talking about Michael Penix first look in the Falcons offseason. And speaking of that offseason, what is the most important on the offensive side of the ball? The biggest storyline going into training camp?
I guess the biggest storyline, you'd be a fool to say anything other than the quarterback situation. It's going to dominate Atlanta. And I'm excited, one, because of the drama. It's always fun. And two, because I'm excited to see Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix just play football. Because Kirk Cousins, he's coming off an Achilles injury. He was never a mobile quarterback, but, it's still a serious injury. And him getting acclimated not only with Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Darnell Mooney, an entire new receiving corps, but also in Zach Robinson's system. Those are two very important things. And Michael Penix, I mean, he's the most talented quarterback the Falcons have had more than Matt Ryan. His arm is an absolute cannon. I'm excited to just watch him spin it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the most important aspect of the Falcons winning this year undoubtedly is Kirk Cousins. But I think the biggest thing for me and really just looking towards the entire future of this organization and finding a franchise quarterback has to be the most exciting prospect of this entire season. And whether we get to see Michael Penix in the regular season, we are going to get to see him in training camp. We are going to see him in the preseason, and we're probably going to get to see a lot of him. So to me, there's very few times where you'll ever be like, hey, the preseason might be more exciting than the regular season, but it's going to be at least just as important because those are going to be the moments we're going to see him. And we're talking about the future. But I mean, if Michael Penix hits, right, we're going to have 15 years of actually enjoying Falcons football. That's the most exciting prospect of the entire year to me, and the entire next future
will be competitive
years, right?
for the next decade.
Yeah,
plus.
is the prospect of potentially finding that franchise quarterback. So getting to see him the first glimpse, I mean, as far as excitement goes, I mean, every time Michael Penix, I can see a video of him spinning it, whether it's scrimmages, whether it's preseason
against
games,
the air with no pads
I
on.
am going to
care.
be locked and loaded, right? Yep. Like I'm going to be excited. I'm going to be judging it like he should be looking like Patrick Mahomes back there, 100%. Right? And the reaction. So I agree. I agree with you on Cousins and the quarterback situation as a whole. But to me, everything right now over the next couple of years really revolves around Michael Penix. And I think I can't wait to see him in the preseason. But another intriguing one to me is Kyle Pitts, right? Because this is a guy that we drafted 4th overall. He hasn't had success over the last 2 seasons. There's excuses out there, and they are valid excuses. There are no excuses this year. It is make it or break it time for Michael Pitts and the Atlanta Falcons. And if he wants to, go out there and be the highest paid tight end, which he's totally capable of doing, as we saw from his rookie campaign, we need to see it this year. And he's not going to have a better opportunity because there's not a better guy spinning him the football than Kirk Cousins and getting it to his most talented players.
Yeah, at this juncture, even coming off of the Achilles injury, Kirk Cousins is the best quarterback Kyle Pitts has ever played with. And that's no disrespect to Matt Ryan. He was just at the tail end of his career. Kirk Cousins has never had a strong arm. Matt Ryan's arm has always been stronger than Kirk Cousins over the entirety of their careers. But that final year in Atlanta, I mean, Matt Ryan loved him to death. He had a noodle for an arm, and he was still getting Kyle Pitts the ball at a rate 1,000+ yards. Nearly broke the record. We all know all that. There are no more excuses for Kyle Pitts, and I think that he wouldn't want it any other way going into what is the extension year. He's obviously still under contract next year. This is a
contract year, basically.
This is, he's under contract next year, the 5th year option, obviously. But this is the year that kind of generally when a first round pick is good enough, he receives a contract extension this offseason. I don't know why we haven't done it with AJ Terrell. Yeah, that seems a little weird. And again, it could happen any moment. I'm still expecting a Terrell contract before the start of the year. But yeah, and another guy, Drake London. Drake London is a guy that I will be, this is just silly to say, but I'm going out of my way to draft Drake London in fantasy leagues. I'm not
pounding receiver yard overs for the season.
I am not a fantasy football guy. I play every year. I love to do it, but I'm not some expert that you should trust with, your $10,000 buy into your favorite fantasy league or anything. But Drake London is a guy that nobody seems to be talking about in his class of wide receivers. That is the Ohio State pair of Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. Everybody is super high on them. But Drake London was the first wide receiver to come off the board that year in the draft. And I think everybody is just forgetting who this guy is and the potatoes that he's been catching footballs from. Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, and Taylor Heineke are a joke compared to, and I know Garrett Wilson in New York hasn't had the best quarterbacks, but in terms of, Chris Olave and Derek Carr, I mean, they're not even in the same conversation. We like to crap on Derek Carr, but Drake London would have been in the conversation for offensive rookie of the year had he had somebody reasonable throwing him the football. So Drake London's a guy I'm super high on. He hasn't even played with a halfway decent quarterback. So
he hasn't played with anything outside of a backup. And then you have the two wild cards in the receiver room that I think are also intriguing. Darnell Mooney is a guy that hasn't really played with great passers either, and now he's going to.
You can make an argument the best quarterback Darnell Mooney played with is
Andy
Dalton.
Moore is no one's talking about him, but he is a sneaky option that can do a lot in this offense. And then we talk about Zach Robinson and creativity. There's a reason they went after Rondale Moore, right? Like these are guys that came from the Rams, played Rondale Moore twice a year. I think they saw a vision with him in this offense, and I think that's an intriguing addition that could kind of be a Swiss Army knife and have a fun role in this offense. And I think overall, the theme of Zach Robinson and what he can do with these weapons and competent quarterback play and a really good offensive line, like we're expecting things from this offense, and I think they have the pieces in place that if Zach Robinson can get things going on the right foot, this could be a very, very good offensive football team.
Yeah, top 10 unit. Like right out on paper, this could be a one of the best offenses in football. I mean, with Bijan Robinson toting the rock, you got two other top 10 picks on the boundaries catching balls. Kirk Cousins, he plays like he was before the injury last year. You have a top 5 offensive line. If Zach Robinson is everything that everybody thinks he's going to be, this could be one of the best offenses in the NFL, not just a top 10 offense.
And you have the most high-profile backup in Michael Penix Jr., just in case you need someone. Coming up after the break, we're going to get into the defensive ball. A ton of questions, as we've always talked about on that side of the ball.